President Trump continues to search for a new chief of staff, and he says people are clamoring for the chance to work for him. And the list is at least 10 people long. Frankly, sounds a little bit like fake news. Also, we do know that his top choice, Mike Pence's chief of staff, Nick Ayers, he's already pulled himself out of the running. But all of that, it was overshadowed by a remarkable moment at the Oval Office today. The president, he is threatening another government shutdown if he does not get funding for that border wall of his. And that all led to a free-for-all while the cameras were all rolling.
We shouldn't shut down the government over a dispute. And you want to shut it down. You keep talking about it.
The last time, Chuck, you shut it down.
No.
And then you opened it up very quickly. And
20 times.
I don't want to do what you did.
20 times you have called for, I will shut down the government if I don't get my wool. None of us have said.
You want to know something?
You've said it.
Okay, you want to put that on my...
You said it.
I'll take it.
Okay, good.
You know what I'll say? Yes. If we don't get what we want, one way or the other, whether it's through you, through a military, through anything you want to call, I will shut down the government.
Okay,
absolutely.
fair enough.
And I am proud, and I'll tell you what, I am proud to shut down the government for border security, Chuck, because the people of this country don't want criminals and people that have lots of problems and drugs pouring into our country. So I will take the mantle. I will be the one to shut it down. I'm not going to blame you for it. The last time you shut it down, it didn't work. I will take the mantle of shutting down. And I'm going to shut it down for border security.
But we believe you shouldn't shut it down.
So you heard the president there, not once, not twice here, but multiple times saying, I, the president, will own a government shutdown. Then Trump squabbled with Nancy Pelosi. Take a listen.
There are no votes in the House, a majority of votes, for a wall, no matter where you start.
If I needed the votes for the wall in the House, I would have them in one session, would be done. It doesn't help because we need 10 Democrats in the Senate.
Don't put it on the Senate. Put it on the negotiation.
Okay, let me ask you this, and we're doing this in a very friendly manner. It doesn't help for me to take a vote in the House where I will win easily with the Republicans. It doesn't help to take that vote because I'm not going to get the vote of the Senate. I need 10 senators. That's the problem.
You have the White House, you have the Senate, you have the House of Representatives.
Boy, so here to talk about the battle royale in the White House and Chief of Staff search, ABC News political director Rick Klein. And Rick, let's first talk about the very public spat that we just saw with the Speaker-to-be, as well as the Senate Minority Leader and the President over the wall. President saying he'd be proud to shut down the government for border security. Who wins here in this political fight? I mean, we all remember the narratives. Mexico's going to pay for it. The House is controlled, as is the Senate as we speak right now, by Republicans. Obviously, the president of the same party. Who owns this thing if the president, puts some coal in stocking for a whole bunch of Americans and shuts down the government?
The blame game's already over. The president taking ownership of this and saying, yeah, the shutdown will be mine. A pretty extraordinary moment in terms of the politics of this. It also makes it more likely that we're headed to a partial government shutdown at the end of next week with the border wall as the key element. To me, it signaled that the president is looking for a fight, looking to position himself against Congress. He may also have just been outmaneuvered. He was sort of dared into taking that position, and Chuck and Nancy leave with something of a victory in terms of assigning political ownership to the possible shutdown.
Speaking of maybe being outmaneuvered, what's going on, Rick, with the Chief of Staff search? How surprised was the president that Ayers said no? One would think if you're going to push out your Chief of Staff, you have a plan in place for its replacement. It seemed that he didn't have his ducks in a row here.
There was a plan, he just didn't have a backup plan. And now, rather than having to just go to the guy that's next in line, you've got, according to the president, 10 different people that might be considered for this, a short list of 4 or 5 insiders. Look, it's a tough time to fill that job under the best of circumstances. These next 2 years are going to be brutal in terms of the politics, in terms of investigations, government funding, you name it in terms of the issues. It is going to be a bad time to be a White House Chief of Staff. And of course, this president doesn't make anything the best of conditions. It is a tough job under President Trump in particular. You're looking to do some things that are flat out impossible. And I do think that the president did not have a plan for the possibility that his handpicked choice would say, no, thank you.
Well, if we go through the genesis of it, Priebus was the establishment guy with obviously connections with Republicans on the Hill. After that didn't work out, he brought in somebody who was going to bring in some law and order to the office where not everybody could, just storm into the Oval here. And we talked about General Kelly, the discipline supposedly he was going to bring. Is it that he can't find somebody that's going to help him from both the campaign side and managing this new configured Congress, or he just wants to be left alone and the names we're hearing from the Bossies and the rest of the world, the Mark Meadows, he wants to basically, run without a real chief of staff here and do whatever he wants whenever he wants?
Yeah, to have a real chief of staff, you need to want to have a real chief of staff. And the president may say he wants that, but that's not the way he's acted throughout his life. He's been his own person, running his own staff, running his own communications shop, among other things. And he's used to having that kind of freedom and flexibility. So if you're looking for someone who's going to be in a powerful position to come and say no, the president may not want that person. He may want someone that's going to say more like Bossie has said, let Trump be Trump. It's a tough job if the president doesn't want to be managed. You can install whatever discipline you want. You can control access to the Oval Office. You control what documents reach the president's desk. But if that president is going to reach around your processes and blow it all up and blow you up in the process, you can't really have an effective chief of staff at all.
One name, and he's part of the ABC family now, Chris Christie, certainly a political figure we covered in depth here over his years as governor of New Jersey. The way that he was treated for all the positions that he was teased and never got, and embarrassed at times here during, the process, then fired when he was on the transition team here with all the bad blood, apparently with Jared Kushner. Does he really want this job, if even offered?
I can't imagine that it's a very pleasurable job for Chris Christie, who's used to being the principal, not the chief of staff, and knowing that you're coming into this wild phase. I think in a lot of ways he'd be good because the president trusts him and he understands the media environment. He has been tested at the highest levels of national politics. But I'd also, if I'm Chris Christie, think I'd want to have the job as I'd want it to be designed, which in all likelihood is quite a bit different than the way that President Trump would let me do it.
All right, buckle up. Rick, thank you so much. I appreciate the time as always.
Thank you.
When we come back, former Congressman Chris Shays. He joins to discuss the funding fight, the border wall, and the chief of staff search. Also, the Republican from Connecticut has some harsh words for his own party, and also how the GOP is dealing with this president.